Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for the Making Progress channel. Today's video, number 49 in our hopefully for a long time series, is, well, you guys read the thumbnail and the title. Want to get rich? Do your homework. This is under the productivity and work subsection of this channel video topic. Let's get into it. So I'm going to ask you a question. Do you hate your assignments at school? First of all, who's the target demographic for this video? This is folks that are in school currently, any kind of school, definitely middle school, definitely high school, for sure high school, for sure college, and all of the school after that in a major way. And for those of you who are done and finished with school, maybe you're going to be interacting with folks that are younger and be able to teach them some valuable life lessons later. Maybe you're going to be going back to school yourself. Maybe you'll have children of your own that go to school so you can, like, I don't know, hopefully get AI to get all the weird swear words and sexual references out of this lecture and give it to them when they're in 8th grade. Might help. In any case, do you hate assignments at school, or did you hate assignments at school when you were a student? Don't hate them. You need to do your assignments. You need to do your homework because your homework is practice. Because adult life is you and your coworkers giving you assignments to do, self-assign and others assign. It's all assignments all the way down, be it school or be it at work. And in my experience, in my knowledge, and my understanding, generally speaking, the best task doers, people that get shit done the best and on time, if not early, to a high degree of quality, they generally tend to get the richest on average from any cohort of people that you examine. There are definitely exceptions, but on average, people who get stuff done become more wealthy. Yeah, I'm just going to reference wealth this entire time because it's a big deal, and everyone knows it's a big deal, and it's important to people. But it's not just wealth. People who do an amazing job at tasks, be it in school or at work, also tend to have the most fulfillment from their work. And how could they not have the most fulfillment if they're pouring everything they have into something that generally tends to give you a lot of fulfillment, especially if you do well at it? So real quick, let's look at the kind of assignments you typically get at school and see if they're really preparing you for the working world well, or if maybe school is stupid and you shouldn't be doing your homework. I can think of at least 4 kinds of assignments you get at school. One are intellectual problems, like standalone math problems in your textbook or up on the board when the teacher writes them out. You have busy work, of course. How can I not mention busy work? Like, your teacher says, do all these worksheets by Monday. And you're like, oh my God, there's 10 and it's Friday. Why? There's a good reason. I'll get to that in a little bit. There's group work. There are kind of 2 types of group work. There can be temporary group work where you just like team up with 4 other people that sit next to you in class. You wanted to team up with the hot girl, but she always goes with her friends and never looks you in the eye. No, wait, that was me in high school. And the other kind of group work you get at school a lot is kind of longer term groups, groups that team up for weeks at a time or even a semester at a time to work on bigger projects like a term paper or a big presentation or some kind of other project that takes a few stabs. Or rather takes a lot of work and a lot of meetings with your fellow group members. And the last kind of problem that's really typical in schoolwork is what I would call, and this is not what's called in school, a design/development type of problem. So these problems, for example, like making essays or other projects, these are problems that take they're composed of multiple sections, and they take multiple stabs, multiple attempts to go through to get the thing right. So like a math problem, you just go through it, you get the right answer, you plug it back in, you check, and you're done. With design development problems, it's a more in-depth situation. Like writing a paper, you might create an outline, and then you might vet the outline a little bit, and then you might fill in the blanks, and you might come around, and you might make some changes. That's a big deal. And it's not something you do in one go. And these are some of the toughest assignments you can get at school. So this is what you get at school. And, there's a school of thought, no pun intended, that are like, oh, school is stupid, school is boring, it's pointless. I'm sure a lot of your classmates currently or in history have said, like, what are we even learning this for? Why do we need it? Don't worry, you'll see that guy dead of heroin overdose in about 3 years who says that. Just kidding. Sometimes he's right, but most of the time he's wrong. Why? Let me give you a list of the kinds of intellectual problems, the kinds of assignments. I skipped one step. The kinds of assignments that life gives you in the real world, the working world where you make money. One type of problem, surprise, is the same type you get in school, an intellectual problem. But in the real world, it might be something like, how do we reduce battery size to allow for a backpack portable electric scooter or electric bicycle? Imagine that you are just walking around Lisbon, Portugal or some shit, visiting it with your influencer girlfriend and looking at stuff. You just have a backpack. It's got some stuff in there. And out of that backpack, you pull out a little scooter, you unfold it, and now it's electric powered and it goes 20 miles on one charge. And you get tired, you go on the scooter. In order to get batteries to be powerful and have enough capacity to fit into a backpack at a decent weight, this is a very, very tough intellectual problem, many, many levels. So sounds kind of like some of the problems you got at school, except way harder. Next, life and career will give you busy work. That's right, the very busy work and stupid worksheets you hate at school, you got to do that shit again in the real world. For example, debugging code. Folks, is there more busy work style work than debugging code? It's brutal, it's mind-numbing. But it has to get done, and it's a big deal. And if it doesn't get done, it's a non-starter. Group work. Almost every single real job in the real world is group-based. And at the very least, even if it's not super, super group intensive, you'll have to deal with other humans regularly regarding your work and theirs, even if most of your own deep work is alone. For me, I do a lot of group work. Scott, the video guy, is in the building right now, making sure that this video gets properly filmed. I also do a ton of my own deep work in my office. I collaborate with people and I work alone. You're going to get all of it. And if you're really interested in making a gazillion dollars, at some point you may be presented with the opportunity to have a leadership position. That's typically a way, though not the only way, to make a lot of money. Leadership is almost exclusively group work. Mr. Nick Shaw, the CEO of RP, multi-trillionaire, almost everything he does all week long is chatting and collaborating with different groups of people at RP and outside the company. It's all group work. So if you think, oh man, group work is stupid, maybe, but you're going to need to get really goddamn good at it if you want to be super successful, make a lot of money, you get boatloads of whatever money buys you. Female attention, in your case specifically. That's right, you. And not only is leadership super putting the emphasis on group work, but a lot of it is the social dynamics of group work. Getting the right people to get along in the right ways to create the most value. So back when I was in high school and we did group work, what I would often do was just tell the other three people in the group, like, hey guys, I could just do all this by myself at home tonight. I'll bring it back tomorrow and you guys can sign off on it and we'll get an A+, I promise. And they were like, okay. And I would just go home and do it myself. That got me a lot of A+, but it didn't prepare me for the kind of real world group work where there are people just as smart or smarter than you, which for example, I work with a team of engineers at RP and I'm willing to bet I'm smarter than most people. Those guys, fucking, I'm probably like third or fourth or eighth on the list. There's only 5 people. I have to understand how to work in an integrated group where I don't just go and do my own shit, come back and it's done. I have to deal with people on the fly, think and reason and accept, yep, that's right. And ooh, I don't know if that's right. That's social dynamics. That's how you interact with people. That's what the popular kids are good at doing. And popularity by itself doesn't get you shit because you have to have technical knowledge to do it as well. But if you have good technical knowledge and the kind of social dynamics that the popular kids seem to understand really well, but your autistic ass can't do, same from when I was in school, you're going to have to fill in that blank at some point if you really want to rise to the top and make as much money as possible leading teams of people. And lastly, the real working world will present you with a shitload of design and development problems. Whether you're building custom furniture, whether you're writing blog posts, or whether you're coding an app. These are things that are going to get best done in a design development framework that is structured and has a multi-pass approach. I'll get into some examples of what that means in a second, but you don't simply create it. Like if you're making custom furniture, you might do a draft and leave it alone. Go work on some other furniture you already have kind of in the works. A couple days later, you come back to the draft and you're like, ooh, yeah, this part of the leg looks okay, but I want a little bit more of a curve. Ooh, that looks better. That's already a revision. Then when you start making the furniture, at first you make kind of the big parts and then you whittle it down. That's already multiple layers of analysis, work, and modification. If you went to school and really, really studied hard and did all of your homework, you're going to be familiar with the general structure of design and development problems in such a way that someone who didn't go to school or went to school, but mostly the marijuana joint went to school and they were just there in body but not in mind, they're not going to get that and they're going to have to catch up later in life. And you're going to be ahead if you pay attention and do your homework. Being that, as is clearly evident by now, school is a pretty decent reflection on life, let's ask the next question of how does school prepare you for the working world specifically? And all in that same category of intellectual problems, busy work, group work, and then design development work. So on intellectual problems, schoolwork, and especially homework, develops your intellect. The deeper the problems, the better. The harder the problems, the better. The more intractable they seem, the better. If you can solve the extra hard bonus problems in the very back of your textbook, or at the end of each one of your math chapters, there's 10 regular questions and then 3 super bonus hard questions. If you can get to eventually correctly answering and figuring out those bonus problems, your probability of success is going to be very high. Regularly at my work at RP, our engineers have to deal with problems that are literally unprecedented. No one's ever built this kind of app before and not in this kind of data structure. They have to create the data architecture. They have to make sure that all the sourcing and databases line up. There's so much going on. The depth of intellect there has to be really, really intense. And if your depth of intellect is unrefined, then you're just not going to be able to reach deeply into the system of problems you see at work and come out with anything remotely resembling a profitable solution. How much should you focus on developing deep intellect? I'm going to tell you something that hopefully is not a surprise, but if it is, no big deal. We hooked you up. Now you know. There is no upper bound to deep intellect. The more that you have and the more that you develop over time, because it's a big genetic component for how smart you are, but also if you train it, you get way smarter. The more of it you have, the exponentially more value you can create. You give me someone that's a pretty deep thinker, they get a great job, $100,000 a year. You get someone that's a next level deep thinker, that's a $500,000 a year job creator. You get me an avant-garde, total revisioning of the landscape kind of thinker, there's a millionaire in the making. It literally hops like that. It's an exponent. How many people in the world can do the kind of work that Elon Musk can? Maybe Jeff Bezos? Maybe Zuck? It's a fucking short list. People just aren't that smart. They're not used to grappling with insanely deep problems. And guess where you're going to learn how to do that? In a very guided way where the problems actually have solutions so you know if you're on the right track. That's right, school, specifically your homework. Generally speaking, if you create a ton of value, value creation is really, really well compensated. Next, school prepares you for life by increasing your work capacity. Just like in training, if you can do sets of 10 versus sets of 5, your work capacity has gone up. In school, it's the same way. Here, busy work, and it really is busy work sometimes. You don't learn a ton. It's not a lot of deep problems. You just kind of have to get the shit done. You think, oh, this is a waste of my time. No, it's fucking not. Busy work is both the effector, that is, it helps you develop your work capacity, and is the test. If you can get the busy work done, you're really good at work capacity. If you roll your eyes at busy work in school, which many people do, I got news for you. You're too soft to earn the most money that you're capable of in the working world. If a couple of worksheets intimidates you, building a company that generates millions of dollars a year of value, don't even bother, because you're having trouble swimming in a puddle and a company's the fucking Marianas Trench in the Pacific, 12 miles deep or whatever the fuck. It's not even close. Your work capacity, ideally, to make you as much money and change the world in a positive way through the corporate and even government world, if you want to become a baller, your work capacity has to be a yes. Can you do this? Yes. I have been on a few business trips nowadays with Scott, the video guy. Mostly they start off as business, but end up getting into crazy fetishes. Hey-o. And I thought I had a huge work capacity. Then I lived with Scott for a bit and I realized I ain't shit because this guy just works sun up to sundown. I'll have a later little blurb here towards the end of the talk of, is it a good idea to really go super, super hard? Scott and I also learned on one of the trips that we were going too hard and damn near broke down and both got sick. But how come Scott the video guy is so super successful? And Scott's real successful. We're unreal lucky to have him. Because he shows up and there's 99 problems, but work will get done. How much work? As much as you can feed him. That's nuts. That's that next level shit. If you get tired at work and if you're like, oh my God, this is so much, dope, no worries. You'll make plenty of money. You'll have great recreation, great friends, great family life. But being a megalith of industry and making gazillion dollars, that shit ain't for you. Harden that ass up and get your fucking work done. Because if you do all the busy work in school, by the time you get to college won't be that hard for everyone else. For you, it'll be doubly hard because you get even more busy work in college and you're going to feed yourself as much of that shit as you can eat. So by the time you get to grad school, people are worried about writing their theses. But you already wrote like 5 theses worth of fucking content in undergrad just during 1 year. So you rip through that, but you don't rip through it. You take your time, high quality. You make a thesis that is considered junior league revolutionary in your little subfield. Then you go to a PhD program, you repeat the same thing and the same thing and the same thing. When you get out in the working world, you just outwork everyone. And someone's like, dude, how the hell does this guy do it? Well, imagine someone seeing you in the weight room and being like, how did you get so jacked? It took me 5 years of lifting like this. It just happened overnight. I put in the work. You put in the work on your schoolwork, you're going to get a huge brain training that's just going to make workload super, super easy on you, and you'll be at a totally different level, and you can leave a ton of people behind. Quick aside, while I'm on the subject, just a thought came to me. It's definitely true that there are factors outside of your control that determine your success in life and your finances. Luck is a thing, for sure. But luck isn't as big of a thing as people think, because in most modern free societies, from where you're probably watching this video, you don't get one chance at success. You get tons of chances at success. All the time, opportunities to succeed are presented to you, even in the same job. And if you have the work capacity to rise up and to do it, and the intellectual preparedness and so on, you're going to catch at least 1 or 2 of those rungs and then ride them up. If it turned out I had the gift of blab or whatever the fuck I do on the RP YouTube, 2 million subs, all that shit, but I wasn't prepared to do the work, and neither was Scott the video guy, you wouldn't know about us because we wouldn't be on YouTube, or we'd have a fucking backwater channel with no goddamn subs like this one. Because when presented with opportunities, we had the skill set built up over time to capitalize on them. When people say, oh, successful people, it's just luck or inheritance or whatever, there's some truth to that because success is multifactorial. There's multiple combined reasons why a certain person's successful. But that person's work effort and intelligence and organizational ability to solve problems is easily the biggest part, is easily the vast majority, and is the most stable quality that will give you success everywhere else in your life. So are people that get good grades in school really better at the rest of life? Yeah, they are. And other people will lie to you about it to make you feel better. Don't worry about school and, well, like the corporate capitalist world, man, the fucking rat race. Guess what rats get at the end of the race? Cheese, motherfucker. And that's an urban slang for money. If you didn't listen to enough rap music as a child, you guys, how much work you put into shit and how good your work is the single biggest determinant of success. I know it's not the only thing, but it's the biggest thing. And so anyone that tells you it's all luck, it's all whatever, it's all inheritance, they're fucking lying to you. Mostly to make themselves feel good, because probably they never had that grit to do all that goddamn work that you're going to do because you want to be successful. Next. School prepares you for life by teaching you how to work in groups. And there are various skills that are built and tested in those group work projects. Skills like listening, which is a big deal. Some people, you talk to them and you're like, did you catch that? And they're like, huh? And you're like, I don't even know how the fuck we're here. Listening, arguing to collaborate. not to win arguments, but to find out who's got the piece to the puzzle that we connect. We're all going to do it together as a team. It's tough to communicate like that. You're going to practice conceding. I meet with our engineers. They have a bunch of hypotheses of what we should do next with the apps. I have a bunch of hypotheses. We all come together. Some of us take the L. Some of us take the W. But it turns out all of us take the W because the team profits as a whole. So you got to be able to concede that, look, actually, my last idea was fucking stupid and yours is better. You're going to get practice doing that in groups, and it's tough. You've never been shot down before. It's going to be tough in a group for someone to be like, actually, I think we should do it this way. And you're like, but my idea, deal with it. You're going to get a lot of practice and going to get really good at dealing with it. You're going to be able to stick and move if you do a lot of schoolwork. Because if someone's like, I don't think this is the best way to do it. I think this way is better. You look at it, you're like, dude, you're totally right. Let's do it your way. And they're like, wow, that was fast. Or, yeah, we're here to get shit done, right? We're not here to argue against each other and get nothing done. That would be dumb. Illustrating, that is explaining concepts, is critical because you're trying to get your group to understand what you're trying to say. You might have to illustrate some things with your hands, with pictures, with descriptive words. Convincing. Some people are kind of sticklers and you're going to have to convince them to go your way because you think it's the correct way. And good convincing means you listen to them too and adjust your plan. Consensus building, knowing how to get the plan together that everyone agrees on the fundamentals, is a big, big deal. Splitting up tasks. You got some tasks to do. You have 4 people, you got 6 tasks. How's that going to work? If you don't practice the shit, it's going to be ugly, ugly mess. People do redundant tasks. Some tasks get completely missed. Like, who was supposed to edit the introduction? No one raises their hand. Who edited the conclusion? 3 people raise their hand. Like, fucking God. That only happens if you're really poorly practiced at the thing. You get really well practiced. By the time that you have to coordinate tasks in the working world, you're going to be a goddamn spirit animal of that shit because you're doing it so much. Reporting, monitoring, editing other people's work, all that stuff can only be something that you get and learn at a deep level from group work. And you start out group work in school. In addition to that, you get practice at doing a good job in proper social dynamics, how to get your team to flow and gel better. This is huge, huge, huge in business success. If you're smarter than everyone, for real, and you're almost always right, for real, but you have no goddamn social skills and you're a persnickety butt plug and people hate you and you're like, just do it my way, losers. You're going to be doing it your way, all by yourself. And yes, the age of AI is almost among us, and one person will be able to create billion-dollar companies by themselves with AI teamwork. That's just the whole world's different then. But for now, and even with AI, you're going to be around other people. You're going to have to gel well with others. Because if you do, your whole company works well and makes a ton of money. You don't, not so great things happen. In our own history at RP, we had a time when things were gelling well because it was just like Mr. Nick Shaw and myself. We hired other people. A ton of them worked well. A few of them did not. Group dynamics decayed. The gelling was not a thing. And our company suffered greatly, financially suffered. Once we adjusted to fit the pieces, some people left, some people came in, some people had a come to Jesus meeting. Some people changed their minds, myself included. Now our social dynamics at RP are the best they've ever been. And guess what? We're rolling in the fucking dough. It is not a coincidence. So it's a big thing to learn. And it's another way in which school really, really helps you in the working world. And lastly, school prepares you for the working world, for the real world, by giving you practice in very low risk design and development problems. Very low risk, because like getting a B+ on an essay is not the end of the world, but designing an app and putting up to the app store and then it crashes on first download, that's high risk. Somebody doing some time for that shit. Design development problems. What's involved in them? One is making precise goals, which are critical. How do we know when the project is over? If you don't have precise goals, you have no idea when your project is over. You have to be good at the outline construction process. Every good project, or damn near every good project, is an outline first. Basic components first. Then you can do multi-pass outline filling. So you have a paper, an essay. You got the intro, main point 1, main point 2, main point 3, conclusion. That's your first outline that you make. The next time you look at that document, even 30 minutes later, maybe the next day, you go, okay, intro. I'm going to put a bullet point to say this, little hook statement, explainer statement, last statement of the intro, just a note, these are bullet points, and then main paragraph number 1. Point, explanation, 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 etc. Now you have an outline that's way more filled out. Then you go in and you fill out the subpoints, and after 3 of those multi-pass attempts, your paper is written on everything except for prose. Nowadays, you just toss that shit into GPT-4o or Claude, and it comes back written as a paper. But if you're doing it at home by yourself and you actually want to train your brain instead of offloading GPTs, you're going to have to do the prose yourself. But writing prose, writing words that make sense on paper and flow from one to the other. So here's the thing. You need to practice that too. So good news, you practice that. But it's so much easier when you have a properly vetted outline. Huge deal. And constructing one is not something you're going to get right offhand. So it's good that you get to go to school and learn how to do it better. The revision process. Once you write your whole final paper, even if you write your whole outline, you may take a look at it and be like, something's missing here. I think we need a 4th paragraph to explain that second concept better. Or, man, this thing just doesn't fit. I'm going to take it out. Ooh, this is actually much better. And all the way down the line. Revision is a big deal, and you need practice doing it. In addition, you get practice meeting deadlines by splitting your work into sprints. These design development projects are too big to do all at once. It's like 26 hours of work. And if you do it in a all-nighter, there's only one good reason to do all-nighters at school. I'm gonna cut you the real deal. Is to try to get in with hot girls or hot guys that you're trying to, do shit with. It's a cool way to hang out and show your other side and smoke some doobies and have fun. All-nighters are not productive things. You get your work done on your own goddamn due time. All-nighters are fucking stupid. They're great, super fun and super awesome connecting with people because you're delirious and everyone's honest. All the masks have come off. That's sweet. But you don't do 26 hours of work straight and get a fucking design project done at school. It's just not going to happen. It can happen, but you'll get a fucking shitty grade on it because at the end of the last 4 hours, you're just hallucinating at that point. So you'll have to practice being like, okay, we're going to work on this much of the project this week, this much next week, this week. Okay, the week after we have a break. The week after we got to do this and that. You got to split the work into multiple sprints, be able to coordinate it, and then you get the project done. This is a big deal, man. This is like launching a rocket. One does not simply do this. And all of this stuff and many other features is basically a mini version of how the real world looks to the highest earners. The highest earners develop keen intellects to tackle really massive, unprecedented problems for which there is no answer key in the back of the book. That's a big deal. Massive earners have unreal work capacities. You guys have heard stories of Elon Musk sleeping at the factory. That's not a day one thing. That shit is earned. You have to really work into that sort of lifestyle. Massive earners work in groups all the time, and they're really good and almost always work on massive megalith, mega build design and development problems. When you make an app like ChatGPT or like the Spotify app or YouTube, you don't just make an app, code it in half an hour, and there it is. Real serious multi-integrated approach is what has to start, is the only thing that can make something like that. And where do you learn to whet your appetite for that? In school. Now, a quick word on learning versus signaling. Yes, a lot of school is for signaling. It is for telling people around you that you're smart and can work hard, and that you're admittable to college and also hireable after college for a job. However, it's not all signaling, and signaling is important. Let me explain how. If you're a super genius, but you don't signal it at all, like you just don't do any work, in your own mind you know you're a genius, that doesn't help you become an integrated worker nearly as much or at all as if you signal it. You got to show off the stuff at some point. How do people know you're a genius unless you can do the work and then they can confidently hire you and pay you for work they expect? If you show up to Silicon Valley company for an interview and they're like, all right, where'd you get your degree? And you're like, I never went to school. And they're like, okay. Do you know how to code? You're like, yep. They're like, okay. Here's a coding challenge. You're like, I'm not going to do that. This is a waste of my time. Trust me, I'm brilliant. Okay, sir. The door is that way. We'll call you back. No one's calling you back. That's insane. When I went to school with a lot of other smart people that thought that schoolwork was beneath them and it was not sufficiently challenging or interesting to them, and they just didn't do it. And those people didn't get into the very best institutions and probably did not get the best career success because you got to show off the stuff. So yeah, doing your homework is a rat race. Do the rat race. Remember, there's cheese at the end. If you're not doing schoolwork assignments, you had to better be doing some crazy ass coding or some shit. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg didn't go to class when he was at Harvard or whatever. Why? Because he was building Facebook. Unless you're doing some shit like that or diving real deep into unbelievable intellectual concepts and really figuring out world problems, if that's what you do in your spare time, fuck school to some extent. But if you're just playing PlayStation in your spare time and you really are genetically a genius, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And you're going to be poor, and that's not going to be great. And the big question in a lot of signaling is, can you jump through hoops? That's what a lot of school is about, is jumping through hoops. And people are like, man, I don't want to jump through hoops. Well, if you can't jump through hoops and won't, when it's inconvenient or undesirable to you, school is the least of your problems compared to life. Because at school, you might get a bad grade and then be able to take a makeup test and get a good grade again because you didn't jump through hoops, but then they talked you into jumping and you're fine. You did it. But at your work, if you don't jump through hoops like you're supposed to, the CEO of your current company could fire you. And if you did a bad enough job, when he talks to other people in the field, they'd be like, hey, that one guy, Jim, from your office, he doesn't work for you anymore? They're like, nope. Oh, he applied for my Eng team. What do you think about him? He sucks. You guys, I'm going to tell you, I'm not directly involved in hiring at our company. Thank fucking God, somebody else, multiple other people do that. I do get to talk to some of the people that we hire. If a serious colleague tells you this person is a non-starter, the probability you're going to hire them is unreal low. If, let's say, Greg Nuckols, who is the creator, a co-creator of Macro Factor, him and Jeff Nippard, great app, awesome diet app. If an engineer comes to us to try to work at RP, let's say we're hiring, and he worked at Macro Factor before, guess what we're doing? We're calling either Jeff or Greg. Hey guys, what do you think about this person? If they're like, yeah, we have an NDA, can't talk about this, but this person, and that's all they say, the probability we hire this person or even continue to interview him is insanely low. Why? Because there is a chance they're a diamond in the rough and there was just a misunderstanding, for sure. Am I going to bet a huge fraction of our company's worth on that? What the fuck? Is any CEO going to do that? Are you crazy? So if you can't jump through hoops and you get a reputation at your job or in your industry for being a person who doesn't jump through hoops, it's all hoops all the way down, people. Right now, I'm sitting here recording a video. Hey, nobody, I don't even know if anyone's home. It's just Scott and I. We jump through hoops by our goddamn selves. Nobody even gave us this assignment. Not only did we give ourselves this assignment, we're jumping through our own hoops. It's Friday, by the way. It's Friday night. I could be doing other stuff. We're good at this. We jump through hoops. That's why we have money and we're getting a lot more of it. If you don't jump through hoops and it becomes apparent to other people, you're not going to be successful. So people are like, man, I hate jumping through hoops. That's not how success is built. I'm sorry. Now, okay, you got to be good at school. You got to invest yourself into school and get super fucking good at it. But how good at it? I have an answer for you. As good as a good effort makes you. What does that mean? That means you have to make sure you have enough sleep, never be underslept, or almost ever when you're in your school age. Make sure you rest plenty so you have plenty of energy, mental and physical. Make sure you're eating. And make sure you're having plenty of fun with your friends. That's what life is all about. And make sure you're getting enough of all those to keep your schoolwork difficult and challenging, but sustainable and not at burnout levels. When you're like bleeding out of your eyes and you can't even see your math homework anymore, it's time to take the weekend off. But when you feel really great on Monday, it's time to get the frying pan in the fire again and do that shit. Push yourself, rest. Push yourself, rest. Push yourself, rest. That's going to be how work works anyway. And that's going to be how you expand your work capacity. That's going to be how you get better. Pushing yourself until you have like a panic attack and you never want to do school again, burn out, that's really stupid. But never pushing yourself and never seeing the potential you are able to do, you're not going to get as much out of the shit as you could. Now, for those willing to take the challenge up, to be the best they can possibly be, to do the schoolwork, trust me, in most cases, in more cases than not, it pays off like crazy to pour everything you have into your schoolwork. I didn't start out a good student. Someday I'll inevitably make the Dr. Mike's journey from useless failure ADD person to billionaire, trillionaire, whatever. But once I got good at school, sometime in early middle high school, by the end of high school, I was one of the best students in my high school, and I did hours and hours of homework, mostly because I didn't have any friends, but also because there was a lot of homework to do and a lot to learn and a lot of brain training to do. When I eventually got to my PhD program, I was objectively one of the best students in that, and this is top tier shit. I did hours and hours of self-assigned work in my PhD. That's where I literally became Dr. Mike in two ways. One, I gave you a doctorate so you can call yourself doctor. And two, that's where I learned sports science. And I learned a lot of it from my instructors and a lot of it from my colleagues and a lot of my experience training athletes in school. But a ton of it was just hours and hours of reading and thinking and reading and thinking and reading and thinking and writing and reading and thinking all the time about all these topics. So now when I go on the RP channel and I blab about exercise, or when I go on a podcast you might see me on and they ask me questions on the fly and they're like, dude, how the hell do you answer all these questions so seamlessly? You think it's my first day doing the shit? I spent 3 years in a laboratory studying the shit. And then I spent another 10 years studying and refining. So when I get on a podcast, you're like, well, how much prep did you do for this podcast? None. I don't need to prep for podcasts. Well, what? Why not? Because my prep is 15 years in the making. A lot of prep. That's how you build success, is putting in that fucking work over and over and over and over. And because I did all that stuff, quote unquote sacrifice, at times it did feel sacrificial. At times it was the time of my life. Anything that's challenging is going to be sometimes one, sometimes the other. Now, money is not really a problem, which is really trippy to say. Because when I'm on a project or a team for my work, I'm almost never the limiting factor. I take it as an element of personal pride to not be the limiting factor on projects. And I'll tell you this, if I'm the limiting factor consistently on projects at RP, we're making $1 gazillion because holy shit. I used to be the slowest and the worst student. Straight up, like I was the worst student in my middle school at math by a long shot. But then I started doing my homework. I did my homework consistently. I went above and beyond and above and beyond and above and beyond. No one watching, no one calling me, no one texting me, just me in a fucking office doing tons and tons of homework. And that is the foundational reason, other than genetics or whatever, of why I am as successful as I am today. Because I was in a lot of quiet rooms by myself doing thankless work that barely anyone even asked me to do. But if you can do that, you're going to come out of those rooms smarter and sharper and with a higher work capacity. And you're going to get into a lot of group work and you're going to excel at that. And eventually people are going to ask you, how do you become successful? And I'm going to tell you right now, because you guys are interested in this kind of shit. You fucking work until you're real fucking tired. And then you rest and you get up and you do it again. Eventually, something's going to happen. So, as a pedantic asshole that I am, do your homework. And I'll see you guys next time.